Viewers, I'm not going to mince words. The fire in a judge's home has not only torched the reputation of its occupant, a sitting Delhi High Court judge, but is in danger of blackening the credibility of the judiciary. One would have thought that the discovery of cash, much, if not all of it allegedly unaccounted, would have caused the Chief Justice of India to hold an open and imminently transparent inquiry. What we got was a Supreme Court Collegium, which is of course the highest decision-making body of the apex court, transferring, repatriating Justice Varma back to his parent court, the Allahabad High Court, a move that has greatly agitated the Allahabad High Court Bar Association, which within hours, in a break from norm, once again wrote to the Supreme Court asking it not to treat it like a, quote, trash can, unquote, or an ostensible dumping ground for tarnished judges. It says it's not acceptable to them. It wasn't just the Bar Association, even the public has expressed derision, aware that the Collegium's actions weren't going to fly. The Chief Justice of India de-rostered the judge. Viewers, additionally, the Chief Justice of India posted a series of videos on the Apex Court's official website of the burnt currency notes recovered from Justice Varma's home. Storeroom is what we are being told. And these pictures have now become almost synonymous with this story, which has been unspooling at rapid pace over the last 48 hours. Look at these pictures, viewers. Out of a closet, cash. Of course, the justice has denied that this is his cash. He says he doesn't even know. And why would anyone store cash, in his words, in a storeroom which is accessible to the wider public? Now, viewers, this act of putting out this video virtually has ruined Justice Varma's case. Yet, we shouldn't breathe easy. An in-house probe is nowhere near enough. The discovery at Justice Varma's home was in public glare, so the inquiry should have been too. Surely, viewers, surely. Second, how can judges be judging judges? As the sexist axiom goes, Caesar's wife should be above suspicion. Surely this in-house inquiry panel, is a travesty in the making. What if Justice Varma is let off? Even if it is for compelling reasons, even if he gets a clean chit, viewers, listen to what I'm saying carefully. Even if he gets a clean chit for compelling reasons, the outcome will never be above suspicion. People will say, this had to happen. When judges sit in judgment of other judges, they will be lenient. Neither will it do a service to the judiciary, neither will it do a service to this justice. But viewers, as we know, justice must be done, but also must be seen to be done. Unfortunately, the lurch towards opacity is not out of character. Believe it or not, judges in this great democracy of ours appoint themselves. The SC Collegium publishes no eligibility criteria and no reasoning for appointing, promoting, transferring or dropping judges. Worse, the Supreme Court has struck down well-considered legislation designed to bring about transparency in judicial appointments in line with the best practices existent in all other major democracies. For viewers, years I have been tweeting that this is the greatest travesty. The ostensible reason for striking down any reform is to maintain institutional autonomy. But surely, when other democratic nations can maintain an equilibrium between, viewers, accountability and autonomy, surely India can too. More crucially, the judiciary also exempts itself from any stipulation that mandates the compulsory declaration of assets. As of 2024, and I had put out these facts, viewers, almost a year ago, only 98 of 749 High Court judges have declared their net asset worth. Imagine. Would any other Indian citizen be able to claim such an exemption? the exemption viewers can't stay. What's the guarantee that judges aren't being bought? How does one eliminate the possibility of conflict of interest? In 2007, now pay attention to these hard facts, viewers, and I always bring you the hard facts so that you can get closer to the facts, to the truth. In 2007, the Central Information Commission, CIC, ruled that details of judges' asset declaration should be disclosed under the Right to Information Act 2005. The Supreme Court's Central Public Information Officer challenged the ruling in the Delhi High Court in 2009. In 2010, the Delhi High Court upheld the CIC order, affirming that the information about asset declarations by judges is not exempt from disclosure. Unbelievably, viewers, the Supreme Court, however, appealed the decision, delaying the full implementation of asset transparency. Why, one wonders? Is there something to hide? The higher judiciary has made such a virtue out of institutional autonomy that it has turned into a veritable judicial autarky, a closed system, answerable to nobody, a parallel state beyond the citizen's gaze. The time has come to move towards an open justice. The saga prompts some questions. Will an in-house judicial inquiry be credible enough? Why didn't the CGI put the cash videos out in the public domain in the first place? What prevented the CGI from ordering a police probe? Why hasn't the CGI made it mandatory for all judges to declare their assets or face consequences? How are they beyond this stipulation that we have to conform to every year before the 31st of March? Is the Supreme Court using the institution autonomy pretext to duck scrutiny, viewers? These are some fundamental questions, and I want to ask these questions of a very, very informed panel. The best you're going to get on television tonight, viewers. These are people who have worked as lawyers. There's also Dr. Ranganathan giving us the citizen's perspective, because we need a voice, viewers, tonight. Our lives sometimes are determined in a court of law. Our futures are at stake in a court of law. And we can't have this system where the people who are judging our case are not above suspicion and don't want to be, in some ways, subject to transparency legislation. Why? So let me begin tonight. I want to begin with Hitesh Jain. Hitesh Jain, you've been commenting on this issue. I want to ask you a couple of questions. Where do you stand on this issue of making the Chief Justice of India, along with the Collegium, in this particular case, responsible for initially not reacting in a manner that satisfied the basic tenets of jurisprudence? I want to ask you, yes, things have changed now. The CGI has put out this video. Had no one said anything out of fear, this person would have been transferred quietly. The matter might have even escaped the public gaze. I want to ask you, is the Collegium today above blame?
Rahul, we have an institutional problem. It is neither a problem with the Chief Justice or with the Collegium, but it is a problem that has developed over 3 decades since the Collegium system was introduced. We have problem regarding transparency, we have problem regarding accountability, and we have a problem regarding opaqueness. Judiciary demands accountability from all the institutions, but I fail to understand when it comes to judiciary, why do they resist? According to me, when you speak about the independence of judiciary, it is also about the integrity. And independence and integrity, they go hand in hand. And you cannot compromise integrity in the garb of independence or for the sake of independence. They are synonymous and they coexist together. So today what has happened, that the events have really created doubt regarding the integrity, and when people start losing the faith, it is the faith. One more point I would like to make, that when you speak about the judicial independence, it cannot be self-proclaimed. Judicial independence is also by building the public trust. And today the way the events have transpired, It is the public trust which has shaken in the judiciary, which is the subject matter of the debate.
No, so it's interesting because you use the phrase, the way the events have transpired, suggesting that the initial response was not satisfactory. Immediately when I saw the statement in the first instance, I tweeted saying, that's it, an internal inquiry, that's it, and a transfer. Of course, that tweet struck a chord. Several other people have also been asking. So I'm asking you, the Collegium acted in all its wisdom. There are 5 senior-most judges on that Collegium, and they had to be told by measly anchors like myself and the public that what they were doing perhaps doesn't stand up to basic scrutiny. I fail to understand. How can they not be responsible for initially
Rahul,
not demonstrating alacrity? No, you please take a position tonight. I want to ask you, are they above blame?
Yeah. So, Rahul, I am answering the question straight away. The incident dates back to 14th of March. Until 19th or 20th of March, we were trying to grapple with the facts as to what has happened. The very fact that the facts were not put into the public domain, therefore I said there was no transparency. Secondly, there was some conflicting news came, whether there is a transfer happening, not transfer happening. That also shows the opaqueness in the procedure, where people were clueless as to what is the procedure, who is doing the inquiry, whether the inquiry is being done. The third part over here, there is one part regarding the internal inquiry procedure which the judiciary will have. But here is a case where a judge is alleging there is a conspiracy, somebody has tried to sabotage and the cash was not there, and it is in the video he found the cash. So if that is the case, if those are the facts, then it demanded a police investigation. The very fact that the police investigation is registered, no FIR has been filed, it again raises a lot of question marks and doubt.
So
therefore, when I mentioned
no, that is fine. I know there's a problem. Viewers, there is a massive problem here. And Hitesh Jain is telling us there is a problem, but who's responsible for this problem? And Nalin Kohli, let me bring you in, because you are also somebody who wears a political hat. I'm not going to pretend that you don't, but you're also a very senior lawyer, a man of great insight. So I have to ask you, Mr. Kohli, had the Prime Minister, let's take a hypothetical example. Had a Prime Minister found out that one of his ministers, there was a fire in that minister's home, and from the storeroom bundles of cash were found, and they were in this situation, charred beyond recognition, or in some cases charred to the point where they were recognizable as cash, unaccounted also. And he said, no, let me just transfer him out of the cabinet back to the party. How do you think the opposition, how do you think the public, how do you think the courts would have reacted to that, Mr. Kohli? They would have wanted him answerable. They would have, I don't know what would have broken loose. Here, the Collegium merely says, okay, let's go back to the drawing board. A couple of days later, let's do this. Let's put out the cash shots, and then let's repatriate this judge. Let's also sit in judgment in-house. 3-judge bench, let's appoint. When that judgment will come from that bench, who knows? I mean, what is going on?
Rahul, thank you for that, those very kind words. But I was just thinking as you were asking your question, and let me first begin by saying that the media has a right to ask the question, and if you're asking questions, you're only trying to understand the matter in deeper sense and try to get answers, so that if viewers are confused or have doubts about anything, those answers help them understand it better. So I was just reflecting while you asked this question, and I found that over the last 30 years, I actually have worked in each one of the 4 fields, if I may say, or I was practicing senior advocate at the Supreme Court. I wear a political hat, so therefore I have an exposure to politics over a long period. I worked briefly in the government, and I have for a significant part of my early life, about 10 years, been a journalist also. So been part of the press, and then in the party been associated with the press-related work. So I think the first thought that comes to my mind is that every institution has its own institutional character, which is very different to the other. The political character, or the character of the political establishment, is very different to the character of the judiciary. The judiciary's entire character is about insulation. It is about keeping distance. I'm talking generally as an institution. It's about protecting it in terms of independence, impartiality, and the selection process is very different too. Compared to a political establishment where it is all through the public, by the public, for the public. So this makes an inherent difference. So while you ask the question to compare them, the systems are different. That's the first part of it. So I don't think we can broadly compare the two. Which brings us to the next question, which is your question on the transfer, your question of the time gap between the 14th and the 19th or the 21st, and about accountability. So let's address these because these are the critical questions here. The first is part of that character of the judiciary. Necessarily what we experience on a daily basis is a reasoned output, not a reaction. So I never see a court reacting instantly and passing an order. It'll say, okay, if a reasoned order is needed, give us a day, 2 days, or a longer period to write a judgment. So where there is an incident, I would guess, because I don't have access to the Collegium or its information, they have at the first instance been informed obviously through the investigative agencies. The judiciary has no investigative arm. So obviously the police would have been the first idea after the fire brigade to bring this to the notice either of the Delhi, the respected Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court, Justice Upadhyay, or it would have reached perhaps the Chief Justice of India or the Secretary General of the Supreme Court or someone there. After which they would collect information. Now there are two courses of action that follow. The first is the transfer. The Collegium has broadly said on 2 occasions that we are sending him back to Allahabad. How I look at it is, Justice Varma is from Allahabad. He was elevated in Allahabad High Court, so he actually belongs to Allahabad. In service law parlance, I see it being reverted back to the cadre. That's the first part. So I don't see this as a punishment posting. I think it broadly says you were brought to Delhi High Court, please go back to your home cadre. Which also makes me think that perhaps it's also to remove him from here because Delhi is the circuit where he exists and has that. It gives him distance away from the scene of investigation and therefore perhaps no possibility of interference. Second, because then it becomes distant to the location. You can't have a physical contact with persons. The second is judicial work has been withdrawn in Delhi. I would be surprised if there is any judicial work that's assigned to him and there's nothing in the domain to say that he's going to go and perform judicial duties, because if it's withdrawn in Delhi, there can be a absolutely logical expectation it's not going to be assigned to him in Allahabad. So he's simply returning to his hometown, to his home court. Now let's come to the question of the video and the investigative process. The Delhi High Court Chief Justice did the first round of investigation and he is the one who has recommended, as reported in the media, that this calls for a deeper investigation or inquiry. Because there are 3 valid questions. Who does the money belong to? How did it reach there? And later on, when the High Court sent its own officials, how did it disappear? So you need an explanation on that too. In response to that, what we have as part of the mechanism is an inquiry committee, and these are my last 2 points to open up the debate. The inquiry committee is basically 2 Chief Justices of High Courts and a judge of another High Court. In this case, Punjab and Haryana Chief Justice, Justice Sheel Nagu, the Himachal Pradesh Chief Justice, Justice Sandawalia, and Justice Anu Sivaraman of Karnataka High Court. So they are obviously going to do it, and I expect in a time-bound manner, because this issue can't drag on. It's too big, too important, and certainly has to see closure. At the end of the inquiry comes the play of the options. There is an option of a resignation.
No, that I know.
There is an option of basically I'm laying it out, not making a recommendation. And then there is the application of Article 124 or 217,
right,
which means removal of the judge, which is possible under the Constitution, and logically, these are the only 2 options. Now, that comes to the criminal part. In terms of the criminal part, if there is a question of criminal investigation, that
Mr. Kohli, look,
that it is closed.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. But you see, you started by saying that, there is a different system and the Supreme Court is more deliberative in this, that, the other. Reason has to be applied and it works at a slower pace, this, that. I'm fine with all of that. But how does reason strike in just 6 hours?
I didn't say slower pace.
Okay.
I said it has a different style.
Different style. How does reason strike in just 6 hours? Jay Anant Dehadrai. How does that happen in 6 hours after an outcry, after lesser mortals like myself take to Twitter, etc., and ask some questions? Suddenly we see an in-house inquiry. Before that, it was just a mere transfer. The Allahabad bench association, bar association, leaps out of its number and says, we don't want this chap back, Justice Varma back. And you saw the words they used. Don't treat us like a trash bin or whatever it was. And said that you can't stand in judgment of your own case, this, that, the other. Neither has even till now an FIR been filed. I don't know. Yes, they exist in a different thing. They must be this way, insulated this way, but come on.
Hi, Rahul. Good evening. And I'm hoping you'll give me just maybe 30 seconds or a minute to make my point. And, at the outset, I don't think you're some inconsequential journalist. I think you're one of our finest. And
thank you,
so let me get that out of the way. And one of my favorite, people, Professor Ranganathan is also here. He'll attest to that fact. But having said that, and I heard my very learned senior colleague from the bar, Mr. Kohli, I listened to him very carefully. And I think he laid out, the background of what's happening in terms of, how the Supreme Court functions very beautifully. I think he's given a very balanced view of, how the judiciary and, what the judiciary is thinking. But if I may offer a slightly different perspective, which is this, and a lot of us perhaps have missed something very important. I'm not saying, and this is not, there's no polarity here. It doesn't mean I'm on this side of the debate or the other side. But what we've missed, Rahul, goes to the heart of the question that you have raised. Should the Collegium have done more, or alternatively, what, the action they've taken so far, is it inadequate? May I please say that we've all missed Section 3 of the Judges' Inquiry Act. The Act says that it is in fact Parliament's responsibility, Rahul, to move a motion for removal and to ask for an investigation. Once the requisite number of individuals sign the motion, the Speaker accepts it, and it is in fact the Speaker of the House, Rahul, that constitutes a committee. There is a Supreme Court judge on that, a judge of the Chief Justice of a state high court, and there is an eminent judicial person. So, this responsibility, to be very blunt, actually falls upon Parliament. And in fact, I must commend the Collegium. They have gone above and beyond what they're required to do in terms of the law. And look at Chief Justice Sanjeev Khanna. Look at what he's done. It is unprecedented. He's asked for complete transparency. He's saying, look, whatever materials are being put out, let them be, put in the public domain, including these videos. Where personally, if you ask me, I think it was. I would not agree with this decision to put these videos out, since the inquiry is still pending. But yet, this judge has decided that transparency and sunlight are the best option. So to summarize very quickly, the Collegium has in fact acted with great urgency, with great responsibility and maturity. The Parliament has not yet acted, and I want to just bring up one quick example from 1991. Rahul, you know India's history very well. The V. Ramaswamy case.
Yeah.
V. Ramaswamy, you remember before he was elevated to the Supreme Court, he was Chief Justice of Punjab and Haryana, and he spent an obscene amount of money in doing up his official residence in Chandigarh. Proceedings were brought against him. In fact, I must say this, it was the BJP sat at that time in opposition. They, along with the left parties, brought the motion. And, no prizes for guessing who abstained from the vote, despite the fact that the Speaker-appointed committee found that out of 14 charges, Justice V. Ramaswamy was guilty for 11. And yet you had the Congress come in and bail him out. It's another matter that his son later ran on a Congress ticket. He himself joined the AIA-DMK and I think contested in the 1999 election. So this is the history. So the Collegium, you cannot point a finger, to be honest, to be fair, you cannot point a finger at the Collegium. Not in this case. It is Parliament, and Parliament session is on. Where is the excuse? Why doesn't, a member of Parliament come and move a motion or get 100 people together and file it in Lok Sabha?
See, I would have taken, look, viewers, I'm not scared tonight of sticking my neck out. The longer you stick it out, the longer, unfortunately, has to be the block, the thicker the block, and obviously the bigger the guillotine. So I'm aware of this. But I am not tonight going to restrain myself behind a cloak of political correctness, because this is a pivotal moment. viewers, a pivotal, and I am really, really apprehensive, Dr. Ranganathan. I'm apprehensive that tonight we are not calling out. We're going after the soft target. Once again, the executive, the political class, etc., because it costs us nothing. But I'm not satisfied. Neither are many Indian citizens with how the Collegium is equated. Forget citizens, the Allahabad bench, the bar rather, the Allahabad High Court bar is not satisfied. It is the one that has raised these issues, saying that how are judges sitting in judgment of judges? Why hasn't an FIR been filed? Why? Dr. Ranganathan, why? Don't we deserve the truth?
Good evening, Rahul, and good evening to my exalted fellow panelists. At the outset, can I just throw in a caveat that there are 4 amazing lawyers and 1 layman. So if after the debate I am found in contempt of the court, can one of them or all of them represent me pro bono? I'll be very grateful.
It will be my privilege.
Thank you very much. Look, I dare say, Rahul, there is more democracy in the RWA than in the judiciary. Bags of cash is found in a judge's home. And what steps are taken? An in-house probe, a nudge, a rap on the knuckles with a feather, a one-way ticket to another city court. I mean, has the Supreme Court suddenly turned into an investigative agency? Where is the FIR? Where is the suo moto thing to involve the investigative agencies, the CBI or the ED? If it was another citizen of this country, the Supreme Court would have acted almost immediately, ordered a probe. Is the Chief Justice of India now an investigative agent as well? The judicial system is broke. But I dare say today's debate, what's the solution? Throws more questions than answers, if I have to be honest, because let me explain. Number one, more than 50 million cases are pending in Indian courts, Rahul. At the current pace, it would take us 323 years to clear the backlog. Worse, out of these 182,000 cases are as old as 30 years. As many as 244,000 cases are of rape and child sex offences. India has just 20 judges per million population, worse than sub-Saharan Africa. 38% of High Court and 21% of judicial positions overall lie vacant. 76% of all prisoners are under trials. The wheels of justice aren't just grinding slowly, Rahul, they have come to a halt. And as I said, the entire system is broke. And one of the primary reasons is judicial appointments, as you said. Yes, of course, this system where judges appoint judges need a serious overhaul. Around 50% of High Court judges and 33% of Supreme Court judges are related to senior judicial members. Only 250 families have ever sent judges to the Supreme Court. Conflict of interest is rife. At one point of time, 34% of the judges of a High Court had relatives working as lawyers in the same place. CGI Khare admitted corruption was rampant in lower courts. 9 Supreme Court judges said there was corruption in higher judiciary. A fact disclosed in the Supreme Court itself. And yet, no one but the judiciary, through Article 235 as well as the 1997 declaration, can investigate judicial corruption. Quite obviously, judicial appointments need to be overseen by a neutral party. But here is the thing. Please give me a minute. Are politicians neutral? Anything but. Anything but. Did you know the Congress blocked appointments of judges if they were in any way associated with the ideology of the RSS, or even so much as attended the funeral of an RSS person, as Justice Chandurkar did of Golwalkar? And let me not even go into how many Supreme Court verdicts did the Congress overturn because of appeasement and placating vote banks. The Shah Bano verdict, the bank nationalization verdict, to name but 2. It is obvious that if they overturn a judge's verdict, they'd much rather not have that judge there in the first place. BJP and all other parties also cut from the same cloth. Make no mistake, Modi overturned the SC/ST Act verdict of Supreme Court with cross-party support. Given a chance, politicians will choose judges based on their ideological or religious predilection. 3. So what is the solution? A, in choosing judges, have not only a government representative, but also a representative chosen by the leader of the opposition. But then again, there is a danger of cartelization as politicians look out for each other and they will scratch each other's back. B, have a merit-based exam and interview for all judicial appointments, including the highest one. I mean, if we can choose scientists and cardiac surgeons as the highest position based on their merit, why not the judges? Are judges any less of lifesavers than doctors? That's the question to be pondered, Rahul.
Well, look, the solution, we're not discussing that. We're trying to understand how this happened in the first place, Mr. Kalappa. And let me open this up finally to Mr. Kalappa, and then I'll come back to everybody for seconds. Mr. Kalappa, how did this happen? This could not have happened without, money being recovered allegedly Now, there is all sorts of disputes over where this money came from, this, that, the other. The people who are supposed to know, who are supposed to be custodians, somehow look away and that money also disappears. I don't understand what is going on, and I am told that it's okay for judges to sit in judgment of another judge. And it is okay. I don't even know if this would have been possible had all the judges been like all of us, like you and me, Mr. Kalappa, had to declare on the 31st of March your assets so the taxman can go over them, the taxwoman can go over them with a fine-tooth comb and haul you up. The problem is these exemptions. No one knows what anyone has got, from whom they have got, why they got. So, and we're supposed to think that the Collegium is not responsible, that the Chief Justice is not responsible. They're all doing a nice job of investigating this matter. I don't know, Mr. Kalappa. Maybe I am the fool here.
Rahul, see, I think thank you very much for having me on this extremely important subject. The first part is that as far as judges appointing themselves, as far as the fact that judges' relatives are overwhelmingly being appointed as judges, yes, it's true. It's also true that like the RAW used to be called, the relatives and wives wing, the judiciary is also, I think, predominantly comprises people from certain families. And this is certainly something which the judiciary must look at, we all must look at, and this is something which I think eventually there will be a time when this is actually corrected in some form or the other. But having said that, Rahul, I think as far as the current situation is concerned, there is a chief of the fire forces who said that no money was recovered, right? From that standpoint, I appreciate the fact that the Chief Justice of India has today made the videos public and has shown to the world at large that, look, these were the huge amounts of currency which were actually released. So if there was some attempt at a cover-up, that attempt at a cover-up was blown up by the Chief Justice's action. This is the first part. Second part is that how are the police involved? I don't foresee a situation where the three judges, like my friend, dear friend Nalin pointed out, two sitting Chief Justices and one senior judge of the Karnataka High Court is certainly going to take the police's help. There is no doubt about it. Let's not make a mistake on that count. They are certainly going to take the police's help. Whether there will be an FIR or not is finally left after the fact finding is done and once the facts are before us. Now the third part is, as far as this idea that, look, public sab janti hai, this is something which I believe with all my heart, that we all know who are the bad guys and who are the good guys. But this was a real surprise to all of us, that in, where we speak of certain judges as being bad, and then those judges, of course, have perhaps gone scot-free, and there are some good judges, but really, honestly speaking, I hadn't heard so much about this particular judge. So from that standpoint, I think we were all wrong that, we always get it right on public sub-janti. Now, the fourth part is, Rahul, the important part, that the judiciary has too much to lose and we as citizens have too much to lose if the entire sunlight was only shown on the judiciary. I think if some part of sunlight is also shown on the judiciary, then it's all right. But I think the judiciary is currently not in a situation where it can accept this kind of absolute transparency. I think we must give it to them because they have,
I think I've asked the wrong question on this debate tonight. I should have perhaps asked all of you before we began, how many of you have cases before the Chief Justice of India? I'm sorry, I'm being facetious here.
No, I honestly
I should have asked
before the
that
Chief Justice of India.
But Rahul, that would
I
be
have nothing to
unfair
lose on this,
because-
please.
No, I'm just being
Let this
facetious.
not be a laughing matter.
Being
I have
facetious.
nothing to lose on
I
this.
also am having fun with
But
that.
given
I'm not
given the
really
fact
getting angry.
that the judiciary works a certain way, and the fact that in every case there is one winner and there is one loser.
True. But listen, all of these are nice platitudes, homilies, etc., etc. No one has answered my question. And Mr. Nalin Mehta, Nalin Kohli, I'm coming back to you once again. I have to ask you this question, please. Please tell me that judges sitting in this particular matter, in their own judgment or in the judgment of a colleague, even if they give a clean chit, that decision will be above suspicion. Will it be, sir?
Let me first say, Rahul, I'll be very, very surprised if there is a clean chit, because the facts of the case are such. I would rather say wait, but you can't expect them to speak in any manner till the inquiry is over. So I would be very surprised. I think we need to have that much respect. You're talking of the 5 senior most judges of the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice, Justice Sanjeev Khanna. And mind you, I must point this out. Justice Sanjeev Khanna is from the same family, H.R. Khanna. And remember, the whole Collegium system actually came out because Justice H.R. Khanna was superseded by Mrs. Indira Gandhi in 1977 after the famous ADN Jabalpur case during emergency.
No,
and
one
the
second.
Collegium
Hitesh Jain is also there.
Process starts in 81.
One second,
So,
Hitesh Jain, I want to bring you back. Are you there?
Finish.
Is Hitesh Jain there? Yes. One second. I think we've lost him. 1 second. Nalin Kohli, I want to come back to you and ask you a question. You said 5 senior most judges are there, part of this collegium. I remember a time when the BJP and others were quite aggrieved when 5 senior most judges held a press conference in the lawns of the Supreme Court. Do you remember that?
Quite rightly, even I think so.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I belong to the school of thought that says that judges should be, their work should speak for itself. So I have 3 points to make, let me close that.
Yeah.
The first point is that I think we need to wait for the inquiry to happen. And as I mentioned, there's not just Chief Justice Sanjeev Khanna, there's Justice Gawai who will be the next Chief Justice.
No, true.
Justice Suryakant who will be the Chief Justice thereafter, Justice Oak, and then Justice Vikram Nath who will be Chief Justice thereafter. So I think we need to understand that they have every stake to ensure that the credibility of the institution does not shake. So I think we need to wait. That's the first point. Second, in any situation involving impropriety and financial impropriety or an allegation of a bribe, there are 2 parts to it. There's a giver and there's a recipient. We are talking about one part, which is the recipient.
We
allegedly.
don't know. Allegedly.
The second part has to also come out, which is about, no, I'm just saying allegedly because as a lawyer, I'm trained to say that you have to say after the final verdict comes out. So it's not about me arriving at a decision on that. The second part is, there is obviously a giver. And that is equally pertinent and important, which I'm sure there is an investigation happening, even if it's not in the open, not by the court, but I'm sure the investigative agencies are looking at that. Because it can't be missed. Because if there is obviously a nexus of
what
some
is the
people who are
mandate?
gaming the system or trying to game
they
the
don't
system,
even have an
which is
FIR
not
on the basis
acceptable.
of which they can proceed. This is the problem, viewers.
You
Which
don't need an
investigative
FIR
agency?
Always, Rahul. I'm sorry.
Okay,
you don't
well-
always need an FIR. because
Well,
you can
viewers,
have a
what if that
preliminary
giver
inquiry
is
in
given
some
to
cases
everybody?
leading to an FIR?
What if that giver is given to
Exactly.
everybody? How do we know? We
May I
don't
come in
know.
for a moment?
Yeah, very quickly. Jay Anant Dehadra and then Doctor.
Very quickly. Yeah. No, I think I really agree with the point that Mr. Kohli just made.
Yeah.
I think there is a major problem in Delhi, maybe all major cities, where there are these wheeler dealers and fixers who are operating and who are cutting deals and sort of, very sleazy people. Some of them also have political connections and have, been in that sort of, have operated in those circles.
No,
all I'm
givers,
saying is,
yes, but-
no, but I'm agreeing with you that if there are such people and if there are such givers, let that entire nexus be shattered once
But
and for all.
how? If those givers are giving to
I'll tell
everybody.
you how. Because
and-
once the committee, Rahul, I'll answer that. There's a technical answer to that. But if you just give me a moment, I agree with you. There has to be a deeper investigation and probe. I completely agree. But the committee that is formulated, you see, judges, of course, have all the powers available to them. But the statutory committee that is envisaged under the Judges Inquiry Act, in fact, has the powers of a civil court. They can summon anyone, take evidence on oath, and they can, of course, take the aid and assistance of any instrumentality of the state.
Okay.
So I'm not in disagreement with anybody here. I'm only saying that judges, there's a just because it is a judge, it cannot mean that there is public outrage and therefore the man should be hung because some photographs have come out. No, he is equally, if not more entitled to a very fair adjudication. Until that result does not come out, we should not condemn the man.
I'm
That's
not
all.
condemning anybody.
Not you, you. I'm not saying to you, but anybody.
Yeah, I'm just condemning right now a system which a lot of people have lost trust in. Doctor, yes, 30 seconds, then move on. Yeah.
I dare say I burned my bridges at the risk of contempt of the Supreme Court. And I think I have, with the 3 exalted lawyers out here and disagreeing with them vehemently, drilled a hole in my boat as well. Because let me be honest, we Indians, we understand what is conflict. We understand what is interest. But I'm afraid not when it is separated by preposition. The basic premise of any justice is that the judges cannot judge the judges. As simple as that. Where is the FIR? Where is the order to have an CBI investigate this matter? How come the judges are there after 10 days investigating another judge? That to me as a layman is unacceptable. I think I'm going to have to fight my own case of contempt.
And I'll be judging, viewers. I'll be judging. Personally, I'll be judging. I'll be very, very happy if tomorrow...
Dr. Anand, you can actually fight your own case because lawyers are to assist. If you decide to do it yourself,
okay,
nobody would stop you.
As long as the courts are willing to give him 30 seconds. But he may not get those 30 seconds from the court. But viewers, you know, I would like to see...
I must make sure he's eloquent.
Okay, but I would like to see, viewers, the judges taking matters into their own hands from here on, and the Chief Justice of India declaring that everybody has to at least, as of this moment, declare their assets. And it is mandatory to do so. Let's at least walk that talk. Forget about all the investigation. We'll be happy with just that.